Hi everyone, my name is Valentina, and this year in the Business Fundamental class, I have chosen the Walt Disney Company for my On the Case project. So today's topic is the SWOT analysis. So what is a SWOT analysis? Basically, it's an acronym that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what does a SWOT analysis do for a company when the managers are trying to figure out the future for the company, or they're trying to realize where they are as a company in the market, and how are they doing with their competitors? Well, that's what SWOT analysis is for. So it basically helps the company to realize what kind of environment they're in the market, and it helps them in the future to develop more. So today I'm going to do a SWOT analysis for the Walt Business Company, and I hope it gives you some insights of how a SWOT analysis is done. So first, we're going to look at the strength. So for the strength, Disney is a very well-known company. A lot of people have heard of the company because of its films, and that's actually because of its vast cable of network. So Disney actually operates in ABC Family, Disney channels, and it's a across the globe channel. As far as my knowledge goes, it goes across to 163 countries, and it has 34 languages available. Someone for me, I grew up in a foreign country, and I was able to listen to Disney Channel since a very young age or watch its films. That gives Disney a very great strength in terms of they're reaching out to a lot of people. They have 123 million of subscribers, and that's a lot of people for them to create a huge margin and then generates a huge revenue every year. And then some of their other strengths also includes, of course, the media brands, and then it's also a very well-recognized brand. Anyone who looks at this logo can kind of see, oh, it's Disney. And also it has a huge access, about $95.79 billion for Disney company. And Disney characters, of course, they're very famous and popular among kids, and that's one of its strengths when it comes to advertising if companies want to use Disney characters. So a company has its strengths, of course, it also has its weaknesses. So you might wonder, a company as big as Disney, what kind of weaknesses it would have? Now let's go into the next slide. So for Disney, it has a really huge overdependence on a single region. So a lot of people knew that Disney is from the US, and it has one location in Florida and one location in California. So it's actually a lot of this revenue dependent upon the US. Now you might wonder, doesn't Disney have a location in Paris, and it has two locations in China, in Shanghai and Hong Kong? So why are they over dependent on the US? Well, that's one of the problems that Disney has, is that they're over dependent on the US for their revenue. Actually, about 77% of its revenue is from the US. This is a problem they're trying to solve, is how do they balance out to generate more revenue in other regions around the world, because the market is huge. It's huge in Asia, a lot of population in Asia, and in China there are so many people that goes to Disney. So Disney is trying to figure out how do they balance this dependence on every region and then try to gain more revenue from other markets. And other weaknesses, of course, includes some of them is they have a lot of employees that creates a very huge manual labor cost. And that actually links to another problem that Disney has, is that currently they have a 3 billion unpaid pensions. And a pension is the fund of the money for Disney employees in the future when they're retired. Disney has to pay them pensions to kind of support their employment and retirement. So the other weakness is Disney also has is its unstable top management. It's very unstable for the company to change its managers very often, especially the top managers, because they have their different styles of leading the company. And every time when they change that, they create a period of the time for the company that has to adjust to it. So that's one of the weaknesses that Disney now is also looking into. They're trying to maintain a longer and more stable top management, and then try to have a CEO that's going to work for Disney for as long as possible. And Disney also face an ethical dilemma when they're selling their merchandise, such as like Disney toys, character toys, because those toys are made in developing countries most of the time in very poor working condition factories. So once these things get exposed on social media, people realize, oh, Disney is selling products that's actually made by maybe by children, or it's made by people who are working in the poor conditions. People are going to stop buying them, and that could be one of the weaknesses for Disney's products. And last but not least, Disney also has a weakness of their technological innovation. So currently, Disney has been using a lot of the same attraction over the years. They haven't been developing many attractions. So in the future, Disney should try to invest more in their innovation in terms of attractions, to use more advanced technologies for people to enjoy more types of entertainments. That's going to help them hugely in their markets for their competitors. So even though Disney has a lot of weaknesses, and you might think, oh, that's a drawback for the company, but guess what? Analyzing it actually helps them to identify their opportunities. So as I have mentioned before, since Disney has a lot of famous characters, it helps them to go into the gaming industry. They can sell these characters for the companies who are trying to developing games. So Disney can sell these characters to create games that can specifically targeting on kids, especially because they're very well known among kids. And another huge opportunity is that, as I have mentioned before, that Disney is trying to balance out this regional balance to create their revenue. And Disney right now has Disneyland in 3 continents, in Europe, North America, and Asia. And the next target, I think, could be very well to be organized, and a very successful looking one is in the Middle East. And more specifically, I think the country should be Dubai, for several reasons. First of all, Dubai is a very touristic place, so a lot of tourists is going to come into Dubai. And second of all, the Dubai people have a lot of spending ability to afford tickets for Disney, which is very important, because you don't want to go into countries maybe not, the people there might not have as much money to go into Disney. So I think that's an advantage for Dubai. And also, since Disney operates outside, I think it's also very helpful that Dubai has a very dry and hot climate that's going to help it to reduce the days that when it's raining or when it's snowing, that they cannot operate outside. So Dubai should be one of its targeting place. And the other opportunity for Disney is that they can invent more attractions. That was one of its weaknesses. So if Disney can figure out a way to try to invent more attractions, it's going to help them hugely in the market to compete with their competitors. And the last one, of course, everyone nowadays is looking forward to more innovative food or more restaurants that's kind of special. So what Disney could do is that they could actually develop industries in food and beverages. They could start Disney-themed restaurants. They can kind of expand their brand more, instead of just having films and Disneyland. They can actually go into a lot of cities and sell their food with Disney characters and Disney theme. So while Disney have a lot of opportunities, The other thing that we're looking in the SWOT analysis that we also identify the red flags, which is also known as the threats. So the threats for Disney is that as an entertainment company in the industry, it actually has a very high competition. So companies such as Six Flags, Universal Studios, Treasure Island, or if you're in the Midwest, Cedar Point, those are really huge competitors for Disney because not everyone goes to Disney. And for some people, they might find Universal Studios more cool, and then they have like more thrilled attractions. So if Disney could try to develop more attractions, like I mentioned before, in the opportunities, it will help them hugely for the first threat of the high competition. So secondly is that Disney has a lot of safety issues. So one of Disney's concern is that in a very unstable political climate we are in today, they're worried that it could be a target for the terrorist groups like such as ISIS, since a lot of people go to Disney. It's a very populated place, and it's often could be a target place for the terrorist groups. So Disney is also trying to increase their security process. And then, except those extreme situations, Disney is also very concerned of their safety in terms of just everyday operation. Because in the past, over 50% of their lawsuits comes from the tourists complaining about they got injured because of Disney's operations. So in the future, Disney could try to identify this threat and try to increase their operation safety. And then the other one is that Disney could have a privacy issue. Its nature of digital online and then database, it could easily be hacked by people, and then those people could charge them money because they can threat them, oh, I hold this much of information about your company, and if you don't pay me, I'm going to release them. And that's going to be a huge problem for Disney because they have a lot of information and database online, and then they have a lot of digital data because of their film industry. And actually in 2017, for example, a company of hackers, they actually contacted Disney and then they say, oh, we have found this film that you're going to release in the future, but if you don't pay me the ransom right now, I'm going to release it now. And very sadly, Disney might have to pay the ransom because they don't want to release their films early, and then it's kind of a privacy issue if the hackers just release them and then it's all over, and then they lost all the profits and then they lost all the input of that film. So that's a really major threat for Disney. And that's kind of all I have for the threats. And it's also kind of all I have for today's presentation. So I hope this SWOT analysis gives you a very clear understanding of how it works and how it actually kind of helped the company to identify its position in the market and in the environment. So I hope in the future, if you were to open a company, you're doing a lot of SWOT analysis. You're doing that constantly because you want to know your position and you want to develop. And I hope that's helpful. And in the future, I'm going to do more presentations about the analysis of the Disney company as a business model because they're very successful. And I hope you have enjoyed today's presentation. And I'm more excited to show more presentations with you in the future. Thank you.